Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. So what does food mean to you? Today's special guest is a repeat guest, Urmi Hossain, who is a culture expert, and she's going to share with us some of her favorite tips on traveling to Italy. So stay tuned for that interview, especially if you're thinking of taking a trip to Italy, maybe this spring or summer or fall, or are planning to do so. But before we do that interview, I just want to remind everyone that on Sunday, May 7th, from 1 to 4 p.m., I will be doing a wine tasting. That's a 4-course wine pairing dinner. So it's a tasting, but it's a wine pairing dinner, 4-course Italian-themed wine pairing dinner. I will be preparing some recipes from one of my Gourmand World Award-winning books, and you will be sharing those recipes with some of the award-winning wines at the Ridgewood Winery in Bechtelsville, Pennsylvania. That's where the event is, at the Ridgewood Winery in Bechtelsville, Pennsylvania, on Sunday, May 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. Registration is limited, and you can register at eventbrite.com. If you have any questions on this event, you can email us at info@marialiberati.com. And I'm excited to announce our first live broadcast for the Maria Liberati Show. We will be broadcasting live at the Overbrook Country Club on April 30th at the Phil Italia International Gala. And Phil Italia is a wonderful organization that promotes Italian culture. They have lots of great programs that they put together to promote Italian culture. And there will be some great food at this event, as you can imagine. So if you'd like to join us and come out to this event and meet some of the business leaders that will be there and that I will be interviewing, you can go to the Phil Italia International website and purchase tickets for this event. And today we have, actually she's become a regular, so it's Urmi Hossain, and she's a culture expert, and she knows a lot about travel and various cultures also, and she's been sharing a lot of tips with us. And today she's going to share travel tips about travel to Italy, because so many people are they're actually starting now. A lot of people I know went for Easter, but summertime, as we get into summer, it's a big travel time for Italy. And there's a lot of different things that people should know, right, when they travel there.
Yes,
Like different things that
definitely.
people aren't aware of.
Yes, definitely, especially when you're traveling to Italy for the first time. There are a few things that you want to be aware of. So first of all, like depending in which cities you go, I think the first thing that you want to be aware of is that not everyone speaks English. Even though, in some touristic places, you will have people speaking English. In some other places, people speak less of English. So it's always better to pick up, few phrases before you go.
Right.
For instance, even have like a vocabulary handy and know like things like how to order food, like how to go to the restaurant, like things like that. I would say it's probably one of the biggest tips that I would suggest people to keep into consideration.
Yes.
Then the second one is that so unlike in like North America or America in general, everything is usually open, right? Like from 9 to 5, things are open and so forth. But in Italy, people need to be aware that between like lunchtime, like let's say, I would say between like 1 to 3, things are closed, like stores are closed. So if you're like looking to do something, just be aware that things might not be open, like museum might be closed. And that's because people actually take time to take their lunch, and usually they have lunch around like 12:30. So things in between that, like before 3, things are usually closed, like things will start to open around 3:30. So that's one thing to be very much aware of. And
exactly. The one thing though I will add in, that was the case everywhere, but a few years ago they started, because they have these gigantic shopping malls there now. The shopping malls are usually actually open though constantly till like about 9. But in the towns, if you go to the little cities, the little towns, they're still kind of in the old traditional ways. And they do that. They close just like you said till about 3 or 3:30. Yep.
Yes, so that's very common.
Uh-huh.
Then the other tip, and this is like, I don't know if it's still on, but I remember that when I used to do like, let's say trips, like I used to live in Milan, and when we used to take trains to go like in different parts, and let's
Uh-huh.
say you want to use the washroom at the train station, you have to pay to use the washroom. So you need to bring some coins. I feel like not many people talk about it, but
Uh-huh.
it is something that like, let's say you want to use the washroom, you need some coins, like, so
Uh-huh.
keep cash with you to enter to the
Right.
washroom and to be able to use that. And this is like in some train station. I don't know if it's still on, but it was there
There,
when I
you
was
know
living.
what? In Venice, it was that way when
Yeah.
I went there. I've been there, and there are washrooms that it's the same thing. I think really like touristy areas, or I'm not sure about the train stations in Rome.
Mm.
I don't think they do, but they're always adding things. So people should be aware and just have coins ready in case they do add that as something, which I'm sure a lot of places are doing that now.
Mhm.
So but yeah, that's a good tip also to.
Yes. And then the other tip is about like when to travel to Italy. So Italy has like beautiful weather throughout the year. It never gets that cold, especially like if you're in the south. It's
Right.
like never that cold. It's like probably like 10, 15 degrees, and it usually has beautiful weather. But there is a moment of the year that I would not suggest people to go, which is like in at the beginning of August, because people
Yes.
actually take 3 weeks of vacation and they're not back until September when school starts. And
Right.
usually people take off like usually around the 15th of August, which is known as Ferragosto. People are actually taking time off for vacation. So if you're traveling during that period, you might be aware that, you know what, a lot of things might not be open, and it's because people are going to the sea. And usually during that period, the sea, like beaches, stuff like that, are very, very crowded. So be
Yeah.
aware of that when you're going to, like, like in Sicily or Sardinia, that a lot of the things might be closed, and it could be crowded.
Yes, you're right. And August 15th is a big holiday, and things are actually usually closed on August 15th. People might not be aware of that. They are closed. And yes, August is just the lines are incredible because that's the traditional month that the Italians usually take their vacations to. So you're
Hmm.
absolutely right. And it can be really, really hot also.
Yes.
So it's not really a good time to go. If you can avoid the month of August, that's probably not a good time to go. You're absolutely right. Any
Yes.
other tips?
Yes, the other tip that I had in mind was about the public transportation.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I used to take like buses and stuff like that, one thing is that they were never on time, or we could not rely on it. So, like, I would suggest that if you're someone who's like, planning to go to a big city, of course it's going to be better. They have metro
Right,
station and stuff like that, but I would not rely too much on the on the bus, but
right.
rather like try to stay somewhere where it's like walkable, like walking distance, or you have access to the metro, because buses, they do come late or they never come. And so that was one of the biggest issue, I would say, especially when I was living there. And
Yes.
also to not, and also the other tip is that do not eat at the very touristic places, because it can be very, very expensive. So my suggestion is like try to like find some street like after, like a little bit further than touristic area, where you can eat, and you can still eat good but pay less for whatever you're eating.
Uh-huh.
And you don't have to eat even in a restaurant, because we also have like little like places where you can buy panini, or you have in Mercato, which is the market where they sell like
Right.
fresh things, fresh
Yes.
sandwiches, which are very, very affordable. So that's like another
Yes.
thing that I wanted to suggest.
Yes.
um I'm trying to think what else. Like I said so many things right now.
Or one of my, I'll just say one of my favorite things to do when I'm in Italy is kind of like what you said about the market. They sell fresh bread almost everywhere. So buy a loaf of bread, and you can buy cheese somewhere,
Yes.
And if you want to get a fresh tomato and just make your own, you can make like a quick sandwich if you want, or whatever you want to put inside. There's even, if you want to eat meat, there's meats. Whatever you want to put inside, vegetables, you can even do that as well. Or like you said, you can go to there's a lot of little grocery stores that have sandwiches too. But yeah, stay away from those touristy spots.
Yes.
You will pay a whole lot if you go to a touristy spot. So you
Hmm.
want to try and find like places that it looks like the local people that live there are going to. That's kind of
Yes.
the best way to avoid a touristy spot.
Yes, and I do have another tip as well is
Yes.
that when you are traveling to Italy, so one thing that you want to be aware of is that they all have like old buildings, and
Mhm.
not every building has an elevator. So if you're someone who's like carrying, heavy luggages, you might want to be aware of that because not every hotel might have elevators. If you're staying in the
Right.
Airbnb, most likely they they might not have elevators, so you might want to carry something smaller, something that is like something that is easily washable, that you can wear multiple times, and comfortable clothes. But be aware that not
Even the
all
train
buildings have.
stations, right? Some of the
Yeah.
train stations, if you're traveling by train, I can remember some of the train stations, and that's how I kind of learned not to bring tons and tons of things with me, because some of the train stations have loads of trains, because especially like in Rome, you're on, all these hills and stuff.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right. But yes, a lot of the buildings, because they're older, it's just all
Mm-hmm.
stairs and lots of
Yes.
flights of stairs. So
Yes. Yes.
definitely.
And talking about trains, and I think this is probably the best thing that Italy has, is that once you go to Italy and if you want to like move around within the country, taking
Uh-huh.
the trains is actually pretty like comfortable because they have these trains called like Frecciarossa, which
Yeah.
like travel from like one part to another, and you can see the city. They're pretty affordable in terms of prices. They give you meals, snacks. So
Uh-huh.
those I would say, like, instead of like taking a plane to go from the north to the south, rather take the train, and they are pretty
Uh-huh.
fast. They're called like it's called like Frecciarossa because it goes like at a very high speed, and you can have like the view of the whole country.
Yeah, and they're quicker, and you
Yes.
don't have, because there are some trains that stop like every couple minutes and take hours to get somewhere that should only take a few hours. So
Mm-hmm.
the Frecciarossa is a quicker train. Yes, you're absolutely
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Yes.
and it is. It's beautiful on the train because you get to at least see the countryside and everything while you're going to the different cities. So that
Mm-hmm.
that is a nice way of traveling,
Yes,
definitely.
and I do have one more tip as well,
Uh-huh.
because I think especially for people that are going from like North America or America, is that we usually eat heavy breakfast, like you have eggs, sausage, and stuff like that. In Italy, don't expect to have that for breakfast. The only thing that Italians eat is cappuccino or coffee with a croissant, and that's basically the main traditional breakfast in Italy.
Uh-huh.
So be aware of that when you're like booking a hotel, that maybe you might not find this. And honestly, even when you eat like in a restaurant, or like let's say you want to have a brunch or something like that, they still they won't serve you these things, because the typical breakfast is having cappuccino and having brioche or
Uh-huh.
croissant. And do not order cappuccino after a certain hour. Usually, like, people don't drink cappuccino in the afternoon. It's usually like a morning ritual, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, they'll know you're not from
From
Italy.
there.
Or
Yeah.
cappuccino in the
Yes.
afternoon. They call the croissants a cornetti. You probably
Cornetti.
said
Yes.
cornetti.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. And if you can find a coffee bar in the morning that makes them fresh, there's nothing like a
Comparable.
fresh
Yeah.
cornetti. And they're different flavors. They have them with chocolate or Nutella inside.
Or
They even
marmalade. Yes.
like with honey, right? They have like an almond one. And oh my goodness, there's nothing
Yes.
like them.
Yes.
So
So
you're
good.
absolutely right. They eat light in the morning because then lunch is like usually almost like what we would consider dinner. It's just a big meal. So
Yes.
the only way you can there are hotels, but I always tell people you don't want to stay in an American hotel if you're in
Mhm.
Italy. There are like American style hotels that do serve American style breakfast, the eggs and bacon and all that. I know of people that have done that, and I always say, what are you doing that for? Because you're in Italy, you want to try and
Yeah.
experience the culture. You can have that anytime. So however you want it, if you can't do without your American breakfast, you are able to find that. You have to look at like a chain of hotels that might
Yes.
be an American chain and they have an American breakfast. But, try to experience Italian
Mm-hmm.
culture while you're there just to get
Mm-hmm.
more of a feel of the place, definitely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, exactly. And I think there is also like this misconception when it comes to food that, oh, Italy is all about pasta and pizza, but there's so much more. People like eat, fish, there is the risotto, and then depending on also in which part of Italy you go, they all have typical dishes. So let's say you go
Yes.
to Milan, they have like risotto alla milanese. If you go to Rome, they have like pasta al cacio e pepe, la matriciana. So they have like different things. So it's always recommended that you try the local stuff and see that it's not
Yes.
just one typical pasta. And definitely don't expect to have pasta with Alfredo sauce, because I think this is just Canadian or American. I've never seen this when I was living in Italy. So
Yes, I know people think of, different that they serve things differently than they really do. Yeah, a good way is to, well, the best um the best like local dishes or the best dishes you get are what are the local traditions
yes,
from that city, right? Or that town.
yes.
So if you aren't familiar with what might be like a local traditional dish, you can just look it up on the internet. It's a traditional dish. The ones that Urmi just mentioned, like the pasta cacio e pepe is really good in Rome, and different places in Naples. I would suggest pizza. Pizza is really good there, but because that's kind of where it originated. But you want to find these local things. There's a region that does these stuffed olives in oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the region, but they do a La Marque. They're famous for stuffed olives. They actually grow the olives there. Not that they don't grow the olives anywhere. They grow them and then they stuff them and they bread them. And I understand that you can't get them better anywhere else than there, although you can find them everywhere else. But that's where it originated. And there's lots of different, just as she was saying, lots of different local traditional things. So
Mm-hmm,
try and get it where, it's really a local dish,
mm-hmm,
and you'll
mm-hmm.
really experience it
Yeah,
more delicious.
gelato or panzerotto, or the ice cream in the sandwich, arancini. These are so typical. The pastries, they have sfogliatelle, cannoli. Like these are so good in Italy, and you get like they're fresh. So like
Yes.
honestly, it's so worth trying it.
Oh, it is. It is definitely, definitely. It's really worth trying if you can do any of that really while you're there. Definitely try that.
Yes.
Anything else? I think you gave us a lot, but is there
Um,
anything else you can think of?
Not really, actually. I think I would probably say to always carry cash with you
Yes.
and just be aware that people do have this they are called happy hours in English. We call them aperitivi in Italian, which like
Uh-huh.
usually start in the afternoon, and people
Right.
enjoy having aperitivi. So you're having a drink and you're having some snacks, and usually you do
Uh-huh.
this before the dinner and you like mingle around with people. These tend to be really long, like
Yeah.
they last long, but that's how people enjoy their lives over there. So I would say, yeah,
Yes, yes, you're
yeah.
absolutely right. So that's something to see if you can take advantage of. Also, a lot of the coffee bars have that too,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean, I know people here. And one thing I will mention, so people tend, when they go to Italy, they think that the names of the coffee drinks that they have at Starbucks are the names, of real coffee drinks in Italy, but they're not. So just be aware that, there's different, I mean, obviously cappuccino, espresso is the same thing. But if you say, I think it's Starbucks, they might have like a cafe latte or something, or a latte. And if that's what they have. And if you say a latte in Italy, they're going to just give you milk. So I've
Yes.
heard of a lot of people ordering
Yes.
a latte because they think it's the same thing, but it's not. Latte is just milk. So, that's one thing I would be aware of too.
Yes. And also like bar, like in here in Canada, bar, it's the place where you go and have a drink. In Italy, bar is
Right.
actually the place where you go and have coffee. So don't be aware people are going to a bar at 8 a.m. because this is where you go and have your croissant and you go have your coffee. So it's very normal.
Exactly. That's where you have breakfast. They call it a coffee bar. But right, even in America, when we think of bars, we think of places with just alcohol, but they're usually the place you go for breakfast. And most of them have alcoholic drinks also, but
Mm-hmm.
people don't go there just for alcohol. They go for their
Mm-hmm.
breakfast. Or
Mm-hmm.
some of them have gelato also, and
Yes.
some of them do have really good pastries, depending
Yes.
on the size of the coffee bar. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, they're called coffee bars, and yeah, they're different than in Canada or in the US
Yes.
also.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, don't stress over all this stuff. They're just good tips we wanted everybody to have, so you're a little more familiar if you do if you're lucky enough to travel to Italy this spring or summer or even fall. Fall is actually a really nice time to go to. It's not crowded.
Mm-hmm.
The weather's usually pretty nice too,
Yes.
so it's not too hot. But really, any time except August is a good time to go.
Exactly.
Great.
Yes.
All right. All right. Do you have anything else to add? I think
No,
we're
I think I've covered quite a lot of tips, and they're very important, I think, for especially for first timers. I think those are good to be aware of.
Yes, and I like a lot of the things you said are things that I was not aware of. So it would have really helped if I knew that before, I went the first time, and you just learn from,
Mm-hmm.
being there and then living there.
Yeah.
So you just learn. So these are all really, really helpful tips to have an enjoyable trip to Italy. All right, Urmi, thanks so much. And hopefully you'll be back soon to share some other culture or travel tips with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show, and thanks to my producer, Britton Roselle, and this week's special guest, Urmi Hossain. And also, just a reminder that I will be doing a 4-course Italian-themed wine pairing dinner at the beautiful Ridgewood Winery in Bechtelsville, Pennsylvania on Sunday, May 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. And you can register for that event at eventbrite.com. And the Maria Liberati Show will be doing its first live broadcast at the Overbrook Country Club in Villanova, Pennsylvania on April 30th. And the live broadcast will be there at the Philadelphia International Gala, which will be held there. And I'll be interviewing a lot of the business leaders that will be there at the event. And there will be some great food. You can join us. You can purchase on Philatalia's website. That's Philadelphia International. Tickets for the 4-course wine pairing dinner you can purchase on eventbrite.com. And if you have any questions on either event, please feel free to email us at info@marialiberati.com. And as always, you can find me at marialiberati.com. You can also find me at Chef Maria Liberati on Facebook, at Maria Liberati on Twitter, at Maria Liberati on Instagram, at Maria Liberati on Pinterest, at the Maria Liberati Show channel on YouTube, and my Vimeo channel, which is the Maria Liberati channel on Vimeo, and the Roku channel is the Basic Art of Italian Cooking by Maria Liberati. And you can find all of my books in the Gourmand World award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, at marialiberati.com, at artoflivingprimamedia.com, and anywhere books are sold online. And if you visit Italy or planning to visit Italy or have any travel pictures from Italy that you'd like to share with us, please share them on social media and hashtag the Maria Liberati Show, and we'll share it on the marialiberatishow.com website. And that's another thing, you can find info on these segments on the marialiberatishow.com. Until next time, peace, love, and pasta.